Ravi was a man who had learned to live with silence. His life was simple, shaped by routine and quiet duty. He worked at a small repair shop in the town, where he fixed radios, fans, and broken household machines. His days were long, his hands were rough, and his earnings were never enough, but he carried no complaint. For him, the only thing that mattered was his daughter Mira. She was 7 years old, bright as the morning sun, and filled with a curiosity that never seemed to end. Mira loved to ask questions about the world. Why did birds sing at dawn? Why did the moon follow them on their walks home? Why did boats float while stones sank? Ravi never had all the answers, but he always listened to her and tried his best. Sometimes he would make up simple stories, and she would laugh and nod, accepting his words as truth. Their bond was strong, a bond built not on riches but on love, patience, and the shared struggle of living together. One summer morning, as Ravi was closing the shop shutters, a man in a gray coat approached him with a letter. The man introduced himself as a clerk from a lawyer's office. Ravi wiped his hands on his shirt, confused and a little worried. He opened the envelope slowly and read the letter inside. The words shook him. His late uncle, whom he had not seen for nearly 20 years, had passed away and left him a property. Not land, not a house on the street, but a floating home on a wide lake far from the noise of the city. At first, Ravi thought it must be a mistake. His uncle had been a strange man living alone, keeping little contact with the family. Why would he leave something so unusual to him? That night, he sat at the small table in their rented room and read the letter again, while Mira ate her food beside him. She looked up with wide eyes and asked, "Daddy, what does it say?" Ravi smiled, though inside he felt uncertain. "It says we have a new house, Mira, a house on the water." Her spoon dropped into her bowl and she clapped her hands with excitement. "On the water? Like a boat? Daddy, can we go? Can we live there? I want to stay in our boathouse." Ravi hesitated. His life was tied to the repair shop. He knew nothing about living on water. What if it was dangerous for a child? What if the place was too old? Yet when he looked at Mira's hopeful face, her eyes shining like two bright stars, he felt his doubts weaken. Perhaps this was a gift, a new beginning for both of them. A week later, after settling his affairs in town, Ravi took Mira on a bus that wound through green valleys and quiet villages. They reached the lake by afternoon. The air smelled of pine and fresh water, and the wide blue surface stretched out like a mirror under the sky. Birds circled above and small boats rocked gently near the shore, and there it was, the floating home. It was larger than Ravi had imagined, a wide wooden structure with 2 levels, resting firmly on pontoons. It had open decks on both sides, windows with wooden shutters, and a little balcony facing the sunset. The paint was faded, the boards weathered, but the house stood strong as if guarding the secrets of the lake. Mira ran ahead across the dock, her small shoes tapping on the wood. She spun in circles, laughing with joy. "Daddy, this is our home. Look at it. It is beautiful." Ravi walked slowly, his steps heavy with mixed feelings. When he unlocked the door with the key the lawyer had given him, the hinges creaked but opened easily. The inside smelled of pine and salt. Dust hung in the air, yet the rooms were neatly arranged. Wooden chairs stood by a table. Shelves lined the walls with books, maps, and old boxes. It was as if his uncle had left in a hurry, leaving everything behind for someone else to find. That first evening, Ravi cooked a simple meal on the old stove. They sat together on the deck as the lake turned golden with the setting sun. Mira leaned against her father, her eyes fixed on the rippling water. "I love it here, Daddy. Can we stay forever?" Ravi looked at her small face, glowing with happiness. He knew how much she longed for a place of her own, a place that did not feel temporary. Their rented room in the city had always been noisy and cramped. Here, the silence of the lake gave peace and the air carried freedom. He wrapped his arm around her and whispered, "Then we will stay." That night, after Mira had fallen asleep on a small bed by the window, Ravi walked through the rooms with a lantern in hand. He studied the old photographs on the wall, his uncle standing by the same lake many years ago. He noticed strange marks on the floorboards near the shelves, as if they had been moved again and again. He touched the wood but thought little of it, assuming it was just the habit of an old man shifting furniture. The moonlight spilled through the windows, silver and soft. Ravi stepped out to the deck once more. The lake was calm, stars reflecting like diamonds on the water. For the first time in many years, he felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. Yet deep inside the floating home, hidden behind layers of wood and memory, lay something his uncle had never spoken about, a secret carefully guarded, a treasure that would change everything. Ravi did not know it yet. Mira did not dream of it, but the house they had chosen as their new home held a mystery worth far more than either of them could imagine. A mystery measured not in thousands, but in millions. Ravi and Mira woke up to the sound of water lapping against the sides of their new home. The lake shimmered in the morning sun, birds called out from the trees on the shore, and the gentle rocking of the house felt like a cradle. Mira ran to the deck barefoot, laughing as she pointed at the fish swimming below. Ravi followed her slowly, carrying a cup of tea, still adjusting to the strange rhythm of life on water. The days that followed were filled with discovery. Mira explored every corner of the floating house, opening drawers, flipping through old books, and climbing the narrow stairs to the upper floor. She loved the balcony most of all. From there she could see boats in the distance, fishermen casting nets, and the endless stretch of sky. Ravi, on the other hand, spent his time repairing the small things his uncle had left behind. Hinges creaked, pipes leaked, and boards needed to be nailed. His hands, already skilled from years at the repair shop, found steady work here too. One afternoon, while Mira was drawing on scraps of paper, Ravi moved a heavy shelf in the study to clean behind it. The shelf scraped across the wooden floor with effort. As it moved, he noticed something strange. Beneath the shelf, one floorboard looked different from the others. Its edges were darker, its nails newer, as though it had been replaced not long ago. Ravi bent down and tapped it with his knuckles. It gave a hollow sound. He frowned, curious but cautious. He slid the shelf back into place, telling himself it was nothing. Perhaps his uncle had repaired the floor. Still, the thought lingered in his mind. Why only that board? Why behind the shelf, hidden from sight? That evening, as they ate rice and vegetables, Mira asked, "Daddy, do you think there are secrets in this house?" Ravi smiled faintly. "Why do you say that?" "Because it feels like the house wants to tell us stories," she said with her usual childlike wisdom. "Every time I walk, the floor talks to me. Listen." She tapped her feet on the deck, laughing as the boards made soft, hollow sounds. Ravi chuckled, but inside he wondered if her innocent words held some truth. The next day, Ravi decided to go to the nearby town to buy supplies. He left Mira with a kind old fisherman who lived on the shore. When Ravi returned by afternoon with bags of food and tools, he found Mira sitting on the deck, swinging her legs, holding something shiny in her hand. "Look, Daddy," she said, showing him a small brass key. "Where did you find this?" he asked. "In the study," she answered proudly. "It was under the old carpet near the desk." Ravi examined the key. It was small, old, and worn smooth from use. His uncle must have kept it for something important. A locked box, a drawer, maybe even that strange floorboard. Ravi felt a chill of curiosity. That night, after putting Mira to bed, Ravi took a lantern and returned to the study. He moved the shelf again, his muscles straining against its weight. The odd floorboard waited in the lantern's glow. He slid the brass key into the tiny slot that he had not noticed before on the side of the board. It fit perfectly. With a soft click, the board loosened. Ravi lifted it slowly and revealed a narrow compartment beneath. Inside lay a metal box, dark with age. His breath caught as he pulled it out. He placed it on the table and opened it carefully. The hinges squeaked. What he saw inside made his heart race: bundles of papers, old maps with hand-drawn markings, and a thick envelope sealed with wax. Ravi opened the envelope. Inside were bank documents, certificates, and letters signed by his uncle. The paper spoke of shares, bonds, and accounts in different banks. The numbers written shocked him. Tens of millions, nearly $30 million in value. Ravi leaned back, trembling. His uncle had left not just a floating home, but a fortune. Why had he hidden it? Why had he not told anyone? Why leave it for him? His hands shook as he gathered the papers back into the box. He wanted to tell Mira, but he also feared. A secret like this could bring danger. If others knew, they might come for it. For now, he decided he would keep it hidden. The next morning, life seemed normal again. Mira ran around the deck, feeding crumbs to the ducks. Ravi watched her with a tight smile, his mind heavy with the knowledge he carried. The lake looked the same, the sky the same, but everything had changed. Later that week, a visitor came. A man in a dark jacket rowed a small boat to the house and called out, asking if this was the home once owned by Ravi's uncle. Ravi stepped out cautiously and nodded. The man introduced himself as Arun, a historian who studied the region. He said he had been a friend of Ravi's uncle and often visited him. "I was sorry to hear of his passing," Arun said politely. "He was a man of secrets. Did he leave you anything unusual?" Ravi felt his heart jump. He forced a calm smile. "Only this house. Nothing more." Arun studied him with sharp eyes, then nodded slowly. "Your uncle loved this place. He believed it carried stories worth more than gold. Take care of it." With that, he left, rowing back to shore. That night, Ravi could not sleep. Arun's words echoed in his head. Worth more than gold. Did the man know about the hidden fortune? Or was it only a guess? Ravi realized he would have to be careful. The following days, Ravi locked the box back under the floorboard and kept the key in his pocket at all times. Mira noticed his worry and asked, "Daddy, are you sad?" He kissed her forehead gently. "No, my little one. I am just thinking a lot." But inside, Ravi knew life would never be simple again. The floating house had given him peace, yet also a burden. He had to protect Mira, protect the secret, and find out why his uncle had hidden such wealth. And somewhere in the shadows, he felt eyes watching, waiting for him to make a mistake. The days at the floating house passed slowly at first, filled with the quiet rhythm of the lake. Mira laughed as she rowed a small boat along the shore, tossing crumbs to the ducks and watching their excited splashes. Ravi spent his hours repairing the house, fixing broken boards, tightening loose hinges, and making small improvements. The life was peaceful, yet beneath the calm surface, Ravi felt a constant tension. The hidden fortune his uncle had left weighed on his mind, and he knew he could not ignore it forever. One morning, Ravi decided it was time to explore more of the house. There were rooms on the upper floor that he had not yet entered. Old curtains hung in the windows, dusty and fragile. As he pushed them aside, he saw the sunlight pouring in, lighting up the furniture in warm golden light. The rooms were filled with old paintings, strange trinkets, and books that smelled of time. He ran his fingers along the spines of the books, wondering which ones might hold more clues about his uncle's hidden wealth. Mira followed him, her small feet tapping softly on the wooden floor. "Daddy, can I look too?" she asked, pointing at a tall bookcase. Ravi nodded, smiling. "Be careful, little one." She reached for a book with bright letters on the spine, but when she pulled it out, a small piece of paper slipped from between the pages. Ravi picked it up. It was a hand-drawn map, showing the lake and the area around it. But there were markings he did not understand. Small X's, circles, and arrows pointing toward hidden corners. His heart beat faster. Could this map be part of his uncle's secret? That night, Ravi sat on the deck with Mira asleep inside. The map spread before him under the lantern's glow. He traced the lines with his finger, trying to imagine what each mark meant. One X was on a tiny island near the far shore of the lake. Another pointed to the underfloor compartment where the metal box was hidden. The arrows seemed to lead somewhere else entirely, to a location he had never noticed. He felt a mixture of fear and excitement. His uncle had not only left him money but had planned for it to be found carefully. It was as if the floating house itself was a puzzle. The next day, Ravi decided to follow the map. He rowed a small boat with Mira alongside, keeping their movements quiet. They reached the tiny island marked on the map. The island was small, covered with reeds and bushes, with a few old trees standing tall. As they stepped onto the land, Ravi noticed something sticking out from the soil. It was a metal container, smaller than the box at the house, sealed tightly. With effort, he pulled it free. The container was heavy and cold to the touch. Inside, he found a stack of envelopes and old ledgers, carefully wrapped in cloth. He realized these were records of accounts, investments, and property that his uncle had hidden. He felt overwhelmed. The total value was enormous. His uncle had not just saved money, he had built a fortune quietly over decades. Ravi carried the container back to the boat. Mira watched him silently, sensing the importance of what they had discovered. She did not ask questions, but her eyes were wide with curiosity. When they returned to the house, Ravi hid the container in a new compartment he had prepared under the floorboards. He felt a strange mix of pride and fear. They now had control of something very valuable. He had to be careful. The world could not know about this treasure or danger would follow them. The following week, life returned to its quiet routine. Ravi taught Mira small tasks like rowing the boat safely, tending to the floating garden he started on the deck, and keeping the house clean. He tried to act normal, but every sound outside, the flap of a gull's wings, the distant clink of a boat, made him alert. He could not shake the feeling that someone might be watching. One evening, a storm came. The sky turned gray. Winds whipped across the lake and waves slapped against the house with growing force. Ravi secured windows and doors while Mira hid under a blanket inside. The storm raged for hours and the floating house rocked with the waves. When it finally passed, the house was intact, but the incident made Ravi realize how fragile their life could be on water. Any misstep, any slip, and they could lose everything. The storm also brought a new sense of courage to Ravi. He understood that if he wanted to protect the fortune and the house, he would need more than care. He would need a plan. He started to take notes, organizing the papers, counting and recataloguing each item. He made a mental map of the secret compartments and the hidden places, preparing for any eventuality. Mira watched him quietly one afternoon as he worked. "Daddy, I want to help too," she said. Ravi smiled and ruffled her hair. "One day, little one. When you are older, you will understand. For now, you can watch and learn." Days passed and their life seemed almost normal again. But one morning, a small boat appeared on the horizon. Ravi noticed it from the deck. A man in a hat waved toward the floating house. Ravi felt a chill. Something about the man's movements seemed deliberate. He watched as the boat moved slowly along the shore. The man stopped near the house and called out, asking if anyone had seen a lost dog. Ravi did not answer. He waited until the boat moved on, but the feeling of being watched did not leave him. He realized that their secret might already be attracting attention, and he had to act fast. That evening, he explained to Mira the importance of being careful. "We have to protect this place, Mira. It is our home, but it is also very special. No one can know what we found." Mira nodded seriously, understanding the seriousness in her father's tone. "I will be careful, Daddy. I promise." Ravi hugged her tightly. For the first time since the inheritance, he felt a mix of pride and fear. Their life had changed completely. The floating house was not only a home but a fortress, a place filled with treasures and dangers alike. The following night, Ravi could not sleep. He sat on the deck, staring at the water. He knew that the journey had only begun. The fortune his uncle had left was more than money. It was a legacy, a challenge, and a responsibility. Somewhere in the shadows of the lake and among the towns nearby, someone might try to take it. He had to be ready. Mira stirred in her sleep, and he whispered, "We will protect it, my little one. No one can take our home or our secret." As the moon reflected on the lake, Ravi felt a quiet determination. The floating house had given him and Mira a new life, but it had also given them a mission. They were now guardians of a secret worth $30 million, and the path ahead would test their courage, their intelligence, and their bond as father and daughter. Somewhere far away, unseen eyes were indeed watching. Shadows moved silently along the shores, waiting for the right moment to strike. But Ravi and Mira were ready. The floating house was their world, their shield, and soon they would discover just how far their uncle had planned for them to succeed. Life in the floating house had settled into a careful rhythm. Ravi and Mira continued to explore their new home, while Ravi organized the hidden fortune and kept careful watch over the lake. Mira's laughter filled the mornings as she played with ducks and drew pictures of the house, but Ravi's thoughts were never far from the secret he carried. The maps, ledgers, and envelopes had taught him one lesson. His uncle had been clever, planning every detail as if preparing for someone who could follow and understand. One late afternoon, while Ravi was fixing a loose board on the deck, he noticed a small boat approaching from the far side of the lake. The boat moved slowly and a figure sat upright at the helm. Ravi's first thought was caution. He had already sensed someone was watching their home, and now the suspicion felt real. He called Mira inside quietly. "Stay here," he whispered. He grabbed a lantern and stepped onto the deck, trying to appear calm while keeping a close eye on the approaching visitor. The man in the boat waved, smiling politely. "Hello, my name is Samir. I am a friend of your uncle. I heard about the floating house and wanted to visit." Ravi studied him carefully. There was something about Samir's polite tone and steady gaze that felt deliberate. He was tall with sharp eyes and careful movements. Ravi nodded slowly. "Come to the dock. We can talk there." Samir brought the boat close, tied it to the railing, and stepped onto the dock. He looked around at the floating house as if measuring its every detail. "Your uncle trusted you with this place," he said. "It is special. I hope you will care for it as he did." Ravi kept his voice calm. "We are learning to live here. The house is very different from the city." Samir smiled faintly. "Yes, and it is more than just a house. It has secrets, does it not?" Ravi froze. His mind raced. How much did Samir know? He took a deep breath. "I do not know what you mean." Samir leaned slightly closer. "Your uncle was clever. He hid more than memories in this house. If you ever wish to understand him fully, you will need to follow the clues he left behind." Ravi felt a chill. The man's words confirmed his suspicion. The floating home was not only a shelter but a puzzle. Ravi realized the $30 million fortune was only part of the story. There was something more. Mira peeked out from the doorway, curious. Ravi gently signaled for her to stay back. Samir noticed her and smiled. "Hello, little one. Your father is brave. You will learn from him soon." Ravi led Samir inside, showing him the main rooms but keeping the hidden compartments private. Samir observed silently, nodding occasionally. After a while he said, "I must leave now. But remember, your uncle planned everything. There is a place on the lake that holds the final secret. Only someone who understands the maps, the boxes, and the symbols can find it." Before Ravi could ask more, Samir returned to his boat and disappeared down the lake. Ravi felt a mix of worry and excitement. He now understood that the fortune was only the beginning. There was a deeper secret hidden somewhere on the water, and his uncle had trusted him to discover it. That night, Ravi studied the maps and papers again. He traced the lines and symbols with care, trying to identify locations he had not yet visited. One marking pointed to a cluster of small islands on the far side of the lake. Another mark led to the base of an old tree near the shore. He realized that his uncle had left a trail for him to follow, a path that required patience, courage, and careful thought. Mira slept peacefully inside, unaware of the weight her father carried. Ravi felt protective. He could not risk anyone discovering the fortune or the hidden clues. The floating house had become more than a home. It was now a fortress, a place where every move had to be measured and every decision carefully made. The next morning, Ravi decided to explore the islands. He packed a small bag with water, food, and the maps. Mira insisted on coming along. "I want to help, Daddy," she said. Ravi hesitated. "It might be dangerous, little one. The journey will take us far from the house." Mira's eyes were determined. "I am not afraid. We are together. We can do it." Ravi smiled and nodded. He knew she was right. They set off in the small rowboat, following the map carefully. The water was calm, and the sun reflected brightly on the surface. As they rowed, Ravi explained how the islands were part of the puzzle his uncle had created. Mira listened intently, fascinated by the idea of a treasure hidden in plain sight. The first island they reached was small and covered with reeds. Ravi searched carefully, looking for any signs of unusual markings or hidden compartments. He found a small hollow under a rock where his uncle had left another clue, a tiny brass box containing a coded note. The note contained symbols and numbers, pointing to the next location on the lake. Ravi studied it, realizing that each step would bring them closer to the ultimate secret. As they moved from one island to another, Ravi's excitement grew. His uncle had planned this carefully, leaving a trail that only someone patient and clever could follow. Mira's eyes sparkled with wonder, and Ravi felt a deep pride in her courage and curiosity. Together they were unraveling the mystery, learning not only about the fortune but about the man who had left it behind. By late afternoon they reached the last island marked on the map. It was larger than the others, with an old tree standing at its center. Ravi noticed a hollow at the base of the tree. He knelt down and discovered a small underground compartment, hidden by roots and earth. Inside was a larger box, stronger and more carefully secured than the others. Ravi's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside lay documents, contracts, and ledgers that explained the full extent of the fortune. There were bank accounts, investments, and properties spread across the country. The papers revealed not only the value of the inheritance but also the careful planning his uncle had done to protect it. Ravi realized that his uncle had thought of everything: hidden compartments, secret keys, coded messages, and even a trusted friend in Samir to guide him. Ravi hugged Mira tightly. "Your uncle wanted us to find this little one. He trusted us to understand and protect it." Mira smiled, proud and excited. "We found it, Daddy. We did it together." As they returned to the floating house, Ravi felt a new sense of responsibility. The fortune was no longer just a hidden sum of money. It was a legacy, a plan, and a challenge. He understood that they would need to protect it carefully, keep it secret, and continue to follow the path his uncle had laid out. Back at the house, Ravi hid the documents in a new, secure compartment. He began making careful notes, planning for the future, and teaching Mira the importance of responsibility, patience, and caution. Their life on the lake was no longer just peaceful and quiet. It had become an adventure, a journey that tested their courage and strengthened their bond. Ravi realized that the floating house was not only a home, but a place of learning, discovery, and trust. It had taught him that wealth was not just measured in money but in courage, knowledge, and the ability to protect what was valuable. The journey was far from over, but for the first time he felt confident that he and Mira could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Ravi and Mira returned to the floating house, carrying the last of the secret documents from the islands. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and gold. The gentle rocking of the house on the water felt reassuring, as if it had been waiting for them to finish the journey. Ravi placed the final box in the secure compartment beneath the floorboards. He paused and looked around the house, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and relief. For weeks they had followed the clues, solved the puzzles, and uncovered the full story of his uncle's fortune. Each step had brought them closer together and taught them lessons about patience, courage, and trust. Ravi realized that the floating house was not just a building on water. It was a symbol of his uncle's wisdom, a place where challenges had been carefully hidden to teach whoever inherited it how to be responsible. That night, as Mira slept peacefully, Ravi sat on the deck, looking out at the moonlight reflecting on the water. He felt a quiet satisfaction. The fortune, which had seemed like an impossible dream at first, was now a reality, carefully protected and understood. But he also felt something deeper, a renewed sense of purpose. The house, the lake, and the legacy had given him more than money. They had given him hope and a new life with Mira. The following morning, Ravi decided it was time to secure their future. He used some of the documents to contact trusted banks and investment advisors. Everything was arranged so that the fortune would remain protected and managed wisely. He made sure the house and the hidden compartments were known only to him and Mira. He even created extra secret compartments in case of emergencies. Using skills he had learned from years of repairing things and observing his uncle's clever methods, Mira watched him work, fascinated. "Daddy, you are like a detective," she said one afternoon, holding a magnifying glass and inspecting the documents. Ravi laughed. "Perhaps, little one, but a detective must always be careful, and we must protect what is important, just like your uncle wanted us to do." Days turned into weeks, and life on the lake settled into a rhythm. Ravi and Mira spent mornings exploring the water, afternoons tending to the small floating garden on the deck, and evenings reading together or preparing simple meals. The floating house was full of warmth, laughter, and stories. One morning a visitor arrived again. This time it was Samir, the man who had first warned Ravi about the hidden secrets. He stepped onto the dock with a calm smile. "I see you have discovered everything," he said, looking at the house. "Your uncle would be proud. Few could have completed the journey." Ravi nodded. "It was challenging, but we did it together. My daughter helped me more than I expected." Samir looked at Mira, who waved shyly from the doorway. "She is brave and clever. She will grow to understand the true value of what your uncle left behind. Not just the fortune, but the lessons." Ravi felt a deep sense of gratitude. He realized that this journey had not only given them wealth, but also knowledge, confidence, and courage. The floating house had become more than a home. It was a place of learning, growth, and love. Samir handed Ravi a small envelope. This was left for you to be opened once the journey was complete. Ravi opened it carefully. Inside was a letter from his uncle, written in neat handwriting. It spoke of trust, wisdom, and the importance of family. It encouraged Ravi to use the fortune responsibly, to nurture Mira, and to enjoy the simple joys of life. The letter ended with a single sentence that made Ravi smile. The greatest treasure is not the gold, but the love and courage you share with those you care for. Ravi folded the letter and placed it carefully in his pocket. He looked at Mira, who had come to sit beside him on the deck. "Do you understand now, little one?" he asked softly. Mira nodded. "Yes, Daddy, we are a team. And our home is special because we are together." Ravi hugged her tightly. The weight of the fortune, the secrets, and the challenges felt lighter now. They had completed the journey, protected the legacy, and grown stronger together. The weeks that followed were peaceful. Ravi continued to manage the fortune wisely, investing it carefully and ensuring it remained safe. He never revealed the secret to anyone outside their home. He spent more time teaching Mira practical skills, from reading maps to rowing the boat, understanding the water and learning responsibility. She absorbed every lesson eagerly, becoming more confident and independent with each passing day. One bright morning, Ravi decided to host a small celebration. He invited neighbors from the nearby town, including the fishermen who had been kind to Mira, for tea on the deck. They laughed, shared stories, and enjoyed simple treats. Mira ran among them, her laughter echoing over the water. Ravi felt pride and happiness. The floating house was no longer just a home for him and Mira. It was a place where life, community, and joy could flourish. That evening, Ravi sat on the deck, watching the sun set. The sky was a brilliant mix of red and gold, reflecting on the calm lake. Mira leaned against him, tired from a day full of play and laughter. "Daddy, do you think Uncle will watch over us from the stars?" she asked softly. Ravi smiled. "Yes, little one. He planned this life for us, and now he watches as we make it our own. We are safe, happy, and together. That is what matters most." The lake shimmered in the moonlight, calm and peaceful. The floating house, once a quiet secret, had become a place of love, laughter, and learning. The fortune remained secure, but it was the bond between father and daughter that made the home truly priceless. Ravi realized that they had faced challenges, solved puzzles, and discovered secrets worth millions. But the greatest treasure had been the courage, trust, and love they shared. Life on the lake was not always easy, but it was full of purpose and joy. As night fell, Ravi tucked Mira into bed and sat on the deck one last time, feeling the gentle sway of the floating house. The wind whispered through the trees and the water glimmered with silver light. He knew the journey had changed them, taught them, and brought them closer together. He smiled, thinking of the adventure, the hidden secrets, and the fortune. But most of all, he smiled because he and Mira had found something more valuable than anything money could buy. A safe home, a strong bond, and a life filled with love and hope. The floating house rested quietly on the lake, guarding its treasures and memories. Ravi and Mira were ready for whatever the future held, knowing that together they could face anything. The house had given them a legacy, and they had made it their own. It was not just a home, it was a beginning, a new life, and a place where happiness would always float gently on the water.